This is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Hey folks, Chuck Holton here. Thanks for watching the Hot Zone. I am working my butt off getting ready for this trip to Armenia. This time we're going to take some people along with us. Normally I just travel by myself, as you know. But this time we opened it up for whoever wants to go. And we've got 17 people going on this trip. So it's going to be a lot different than the normal trip that I usually take. And one of the things I've been thinking about here lately is just that it sort of expands exponentially the chances that something major goes wrong. If you think about that, say getting COVID, for example. If I go over there, the chances whether or not I get COVID are just, it's just me, first of all. But if I get COVID, it only affects me. It doesn't really affect anybody else. But when you got 17 people going, if I get COVID now and I have to postpone the trip, it throws a wrench into the works of a whole lot of moving parts, a lot of money spent, a lot of plans made, time off of work for people and things like that. So I've been sort of struggling trying to figure out how I'm going to get my COVID test that you have to have a PCR test to get into Armenia now. And you have to have had it within 72 hours of arriving in Armenia. The problem is we're leaving over the weekend. We leave Saturday. And so if we leave Saturday, that means we have to have a test and get the results back, which means we would have to take the test like Friday and get the results back within 24 hours. But a lot of places to get a PCR test is either way expensive, 17 people times $300 each. It just adds a huge expense to the trip, or it takes 72 hours to get the results of the test back, in which case you're not going to get it in time to get into Armenia. So we looked at a lot of different things. Armenia will let you take the test when you get there, but we get there at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and that's going to be a pain. And it's going to take hours of everybody sitting around trying to get a test. And then you have to quarantine for like 12 hours until the results come back. And we've got a busy schedule once we get over there. So we don't want to do that. So I wasn't really sure what to do. We have a 14-hour layover in Vienna. That'd be exciting, except for the fact that Vienna's closed, so can't get into Amsterdam right now. And so we're stuck in the airport for 14 hours. But they do have a testing facility there at the airport where we could get a test, and it'd be a little bit cheaper than the States. So I thought maybe we'd use some of that 14 hours to get our test over there. The problem is the testing center is outside the airport security, and we can't leave the airport. So that's kind of out. So here's what I found. Very interesting. It's a new at-home PCR test. This is called the Lucira Check It. And it's a PCR rapid test device that you can administer to yourself that then gives you the results within 30 minutes. And then you upload that. They give you a certified, some kind of pass on your phone that is supposed to work for international travel. And these things are only like $50 a piece, a little bit more if you get the expedited shipping. But I got the expedited shipping, and I got 6 of these things, and I think it was an extra $25 shipping or something like that. So it was totally worth it. And they came here almost within 24 hours from the West Coast. So I will let you know how that goes. Hopefully these things will work. If they don't, we're going to end up having to take the test in Armenia anyway. What a pain that'll be. I want to talk a little bit more about the U.S. southern border because there's so much that I need to be reporting on down there that just I don't have time to do because we've got this trip to Armenia. I've had this big tour going over the last few weeks. There are, to call the situation at the U.S. southern border a crisis would be the height of understatement right now. This is far more than a crisis. This is an absolute tidal wave of humanity. We're looking at 2 million people coming in through the southern border illegally this year. That's like an extra city of Chicago arriving in America. And absolutely nothing is being done to stop it at the southern border by the U.S. government right now. The Mexican and Guatemalan governments are actually doing a little bit, and some of that is maybe from pressure from the U.S. government, but nothing like they had under the Trump administration. I mean, the Trump administration pretty much had this thing licked. They had that Remain in Mexico policy took away the incentive for people to come illegally to the United States. And so it stopped. But now we've got, I just saw that Mexico is constructing 17 new migrant shelters just for children. 17 shelters just for kids. It's unbelievable. There are massive shelters being built at Fort Bliss. I know people down there that have told me they've flown over these shelters and they're absolutely massive and getting bigger every day. But they're being told not to even look that direction. Don't take any pictures of it or anything, because the U.S. government does not want you to know how bad it is at the U.S. southern border. There's no question about that. That is an absolute provable fact. And the biggest problem is not these unaccompanied minors, although they're very expensive to the United States. They're costing us a tremendous amount of money. They're endangering the lives of Americans by bringing, because many of these migrants are coming across COVID positive, and they're creating a huge super spreader event to the extent that the governor of Texas is suing the federal government for creating this super spreader event on the U.S. southern border. But the worst thing is that so many of these people, and I'm talking about, we're looking at tens of thousands of the people coming across right now illegally, are either known felons who have been previously deported or gang members from MS-13, Barrio 18, and other transnational criminal organizations. And they are coming across and are going to be in the United States wreaking havoc. That's to say nothing of the fact that the cartels are getting absolutely wealthy off of this. You think about 2 million people, and the average person pays $3,500 to get transported across the border. Just do the math on that. It's absolutely mind-boggling. Without a doubt, these cartels are going to be richer than the Mexican government before long. And they already control Mexico. So Mexico, we're looking at a failed state down there, and in the worst definition. But with all the people coming north, and the U.S. government inflating the currency by giving so much money away, ask yourself this question: how many of these migrants are taking advantage of programs that are being put in place, like unemployment, like welfare, like SNAP, like the Paycheck Protection Program? You would be surprised how many of them know how to play the game, and they work the system to get money from the system. I've seen that over and over and over again. But the biggest, I think, risk immediately to American, besides the economic risk, is the risk of crime from these transnational organizations. Now, I went to El Salvador a couple of years ago and did some reporting on this. I want to show that to you now. Enjoy. We'll see you again next week from Armenia. Take care.
La MS es una pandilla muy fuerte, muy bien estructurada, ¿verdad? Con redes quizás a nivel centroamericano, a nivel del Caribe y de Europa incluso. Prácticamente desde las cárceles se ha estado operando toda la parte criminal y delictiva, ¿verdad?
Sí, ellos tienen control con muchos lados.
This gang is more deadly than any other gang. The other gangs used to run by rules, and this one don't run by rules. They just don't care. Yeah, they're brutal.
Wedged in between Guatemala and Honduras, tiny El Salvador has beautiful tropical scenery and miles of Pacific beaches that could easily make it a sunseeker's paradise. But tourism here has suffered for decades because El Salvador has gotten a reputation as one of the most violent countries on earth. Starting with the brutal civil war that followed a socialist coup in 1979, repression and crime exploded like one of the country's many volcanoes, spewing death as criminal elements took root and grew with little to stand in their way. Since that time, hundreds of thousands of Salvadorians have fled to the United States, and some banded together in the 1980s and formed a gang in Los Angeles, which would become one of the most brutal transnational criminal organizations of all time, MS-13. As gangbangers in LA got arrested and deported back to El Salvador, their horrific acts of violence followed. Today, El Salvador's homicide rate is 3 times that of Mexico, and gang culture dominates life across the country. We're at a coffee processing plant up in the mountains of El Salvador, just pretty close to the Honduran border. And I just want to point out how the violence in this country has permeated every aspect of life. Even the people who are harvesting coffee have to have armed guards to protect them just from the general lawlessness, not necessarily from any particular gang, but just because there's so much lawlessness here in this country.
Como sabemos, a nivel del país, ya ellos están organizados en colonias, cantones, caseríos, barrios. Pero tenemos que ver que detrás de estos grupos de jóvenes que están en cantones, caseríos y colonias y barrios, yo creo, en mi pensar, hay alguien grande detrás de. Por eso, al final yo pienso que los jóvenes de estos lugares son víctimas.
The gang has grown throughout Central America and now has a presence in over 200 major U.S. cities, spreading their brutal tactics to places like Long Island and suburban D.C. The Trump administration has made eradicating MS-13 a major priority.
But I have a simple message today for every gang member and criminal alien. We will find you, we will arrest you, we will jail you, and we will deport you.
This is causing great concern here in El Salvador.
Hay muchos de ellos, ¿verdad?, que vienen de allá y que tienen órdenes de captura aquí. Esos definitivamente inmediatamente son capturados y son remitidos a los jueces competentes para sus procedimientos penales respectivos.
On the edge of this otherwise sleepy little town sits a maximum security prison dedicated exclusively to MS-13. Built for 800, but now holding more than 2,500. Here, the guards stay on the outside, and prisoners run everything inside the walls.
Y ahorita tenemos ya 38,000, ¿verdad? Entonces, y resulta que nuestra capacidad instalada está para alrededor de unos, lo más tranquilamente, de 8 a 10,000 privados. Y tenemos 38. La gran mayoría de cabecillas están detenidos aquí en nuestro país. Entonces, lo que ha significado es que la concentración de ellos en las cárceles, con grandes cantidades de gente y con espacios donde por las condiciones mismas no se puede ejercer un control absoluto, en un momento determinado tuviéramos que definir espacios o cárceles específicamente para cada una de las pandillas.
This is a prison at a place called Apanteos, about an hour outside of San Salvador, the capital city here. And it's a very overcrowded prison. It was built for about 1,800 people, but there are over 5,000 prisoners inside. Now, this is the birthplace of a program called Yo Cambio. You see it painted on the wall here. It means I change. And it's a holistic program to take this from being a place of just punishment to a place of rehabilitation. They deal with things like spiritual fitness, academics, health, all sorts of classes and that sort of thing that help these guys gain some skills and some life skills that will help them once they get out.
So you cambio your classes,
Okay.
and you learn 2 things: emotional abilities, like tolerance, patience, teamwork, empathy, and cognitive abilities, like read and write, learn English, learn French, mental health. But the emotional one is the most important one, because that you carry it with through all your life. So the average education level is about 2nd grade. The guys behind me are former gang members, really violent gang members. Half of them are Christians, and half of them have given their lives to Jesus. Okay. And that is the key to their transformation.
Start with the heart and then work on the head and everything else, right?
On the spirit, then the heart, and then the head, yes.
Yes. Warden Maria Baños gave us a tour of the 11 cell blocks that make up her prison, including one dedicated exclusively to gang members from MS-13. Another block holds those who have renounced the gang, a virtual death sentence in this country.
We got these people here that they don't want nothing to do with that gang no more.
How hard will it be for them when they get out of here?
Here, especially here in El Salvador, it's really difficult because it's controlled by the 2 major gangs, it's MS and 18, right? Mm-hmm. So you gotta imagine, see, if you come from a group and you desert them like they say it, the pay of that is death. And if it's not you, they'll get your family. trying to erase all meaning of you. That's what they do. So a lot of these people, what they do is migrate. They go somewhere else. It's not just, I'm not talking about literally just the United States, but Mexico, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, anywhere. That's what's happening here.
En las personas que han pertenecido en las pandillas.
She's telling me that this situation is kind of worrying in that the United States is collecting up all these MS-13 gang members and shipping them back to El Salvador because they don't have the capacity to have a bunch more people in prison. And she's hoping that there will be programs that will help try to keep these guys out of the gangs once they get back here. The United States government actually provides some help to this prison and the prison system here in El Salvador by providing some equipment and things like that. I guess the concept is that it's cheaper for us to help them here, prevent people from getting into a life of crime and coming to the United States, than it would be to do what we're doing now, which is arrest them in the United States and deport them back here.
Yo creo que sí es importante decir de que de alguna manera hemos estado en problema, pero que sí tenemos, ¿verdad?, bien clarito y bien definido cuáles son las líneas de acción.
As the Trump administration begins to round up and deport MS-13 gang members from the U.S., the government here in El Salvador is hiring more police officers in anticipation of the problems these gang members may cause once they return to their home soil. But for the people of Ciudad Barrios, their best hope remains with the children.
Si el niño viene a la casa, recibe regaño, en la escuela recibe maltrato, ¿para dónde va a ir entonces? Para mí los jóvenes son el cambio. Los jóvenes, si los cultivamos, ellos pueden hacer el cambio.
From El Salvador, I'm Chuck Holton.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2021.